A lot of things working against them. As you can see here, crew members from Mississippi on the ground and trying to get a power pole actually back up.
Most of us would think a latch and a deadbolt would be enough. But your locks may not really be your problem.
This is something that most of us would never see in Arkansas unless we were afraid of getting busted by the DEA.
So what was once thought to be a very small fire quickly became a very, very big problem. It's definitely not the Arkansas Delta, but take a look. It is cotton country. So let me tell you, this storm didn't pull any punches. Just take a look behind me here at this home. And those are trees sticking out of this mobile home, equaling thousands of dollars that are going to repair elevators instead of pave your streets.
The early morning robbery at MAPCO happened just minutes after opening the doors to customers instead of using this security window to make transactions.
But the truth is, our daily commute cuts right through a human trafficking corridor. Caleb vanished on Saturday, trying to catch up with a group who had gone ahead along the banks of the rushing Spring River. But before all of this existed, hanging on racks, her entire business was only on cyberspace. Those wind gusts that you mentioned, sometimes I feel like they're about to lift me up off my feet.
Is the fare really all it's cracked up to be?
Was caught on the exterior surveillance video cameras, but the store's internal surveillance system not set to be upgraded until Wednesday morning. For politicians, it's a fine line to walk between legitimately logging on and the public perceiving you as goofing off. I don't know if you can hear it, but air tankers are flying above us right now, and those are dropping water on the area. They won't be able to put out the wildfire. We arrived with the dozers, unchained, unloaded, ready to work a fire line. They hit flames 50 feet inside the woods off Highway 155 northwest of Casa.
It's off the mountain over there, and I mean, it shot flames higher than that tree.
Less than 2 miles away, people like the Masons are packing up under evacuation.
Oh yes, we've been watching it. Now it's getting to the point that it's like, okay, get the kids' clothes ready and throw them in the truck. We're fixing to go.
Uncertain if everything they own will turn to ash and soot.
I don't want to leave all my stuff I like.
I know, sweetie, but you know what? We can replace. Stuff you can replace, we can't replace y'all.
A lot of hands on deck here in Perry County, been that way throughout the afternoon. Incident Command initially thought that this fire was going to be rather small, easily put out. So what was once thought to be a very small fire quickly became a very, very big problem.
This one exploded about 4 o'clock, and they started calling for evacuations.
If we hit those pastures, we'll be okay. We can fight it better down there.
Incident Command abuzz as responders rework the plan of attack. From the air and on the ground.
We have quite a bit of wind that is not helping, and it's dry.
That's something you don't have to tell those folks who live deep in these woods.
Underbrush, boy, it's dry and no rain, it's gonna make it go more.
They're forced to wonder how close it will hit to home.
At this point, I guess you're hoping you'll have a home to come back to.
I'm hoping we will. But if not, that's God's will.
While realizing their fate remains in the air with the smoke.
Now, most of us do our shopping face-to-face with someone behind a counter or with an online company, but sometimes the sweet prices on Craigslist can tempt us to respond to a total stranger, and that's what has law enforcement wanting Arkansans to be cautious. Some shoppers like Bernicia Ridgel prefer the in-store experience.
I thought they were just cute.
Instead of looking for deals online through the classifieds listed on Craigslist.
I'll rather go shop in a mall, stores, because it's not safe.
On Wednesday, Pine Bluff police say 2 men met up with the seller after seeing car rims for sale on Craigslist. Officers say the seller attempted to rob them of their cash and left one in the hospital after shooting him in the head.
I would ever meet up with anyone. It's not safe.
You don't want to put yourself in a bad situation that you really don't have to be in.
Lieutenant Carl Minden with the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office seeing more crimes from online deals gone bad across central Arkansas.
I mean, it's not an everyday occurrence, but it is something that people need to be aware of.
Buyers should be aware of who's making the offer.
It may be an ulterior motive, one, to rob you, which you've seen a couple cases recently in the central Arkansas area.
And where they want to do the deal.
You meet them someplace, you need to be careful where you meet them.
Sellers can also be at risk, like one UALR student held at gunpoint on campus for the iPad he listed to sell through the site.
Obviously, the perpetrator came here with a different agenda.
At the end of the day, Ridgel says the real question is, are you willing to take the risk?
So you have to be careful.
She'll stick to shopping in stores where security and sales clerks can see her coming and going. A few other tips: don't give out your home address if you're selling items online, and if you do decide to buy or sell, choose to meet up in a public place, preferably in daylight. You can even make that meetup location outside your local law enforcement office.
Always constant, Jessica, and we're here, and the people at the American Red Cross are sort of wrapping up their day, but empty seats like these are something that they never like to see, and that is the problem, because the need is constant. And you know, we hear it all the time: a pint of blood can save 3 lives, but who are the people we're saving? Well, tonight I want to introduce you to a young man whose life actually depends on donations.
Roll it to him. Ty McCullar's life nearly slipped by before it even began 3 years ago.
Ty's been fighting since day one.
Diagnosed with 2 rare conditions from birth, in addition to cancer.
Good job, Ty.
Every breath has been an uphill battle.
Just being able to walk or talk, and those are things that Ty struggles with every single day.
One of Ty's most important treatments, something any and all of us can supply.
Without blood and platelet donors, Ty would not be here today.
Before Ty's birth, Cynthia Sieber only donated at work-related blood drives.
I never knew how important it was until it affected our family.
Now she gives every 8 weeks.
Everyone's busy. Anyone can spare an hour of their life to get in here and donate for someone that needs it so bad.
Kids like Ty don't get a break from being sick, so even his mom takes a seat to contribute.
If people don't donate, there's not platelets available. There's been times that Ty's needed platelets, and we had to wait a day because there weren't any that were compatible for him available.
His conditions are not curable, and each day is uncertain.
Life can change in an instant.
But his family hopes Ty's story will encourage others to reach out and offer families more of life's moments.
Now, some people are lucky enough to be able to fill these seats every day, but if you're small like me, or you have a condition that precludes you from being able to give all the time, or maybe give platelets instead of blood, blood instead of platelets, that's why it's important to encourage your family and friends to actually donate as well, to sort of fill that gap when you can't. And also, you don't want to wait until a time of tragedy to actually fill these seats, because while the gratification of giving is instant, the process for getting the blood to the people who need it isn't, and that's why the American Red Cross needs people filling all of these empty seats every day, year-round.
And I really didn't know what was happening until it was too late, and there was no way out. I was right at 14 years old when the first time I was sold.
How much would you pay for a piece of a person's humanity?
No little girl wakes up one day and says, "Oh, I think I'll grow up and become a prostitute."
How far can a soul bend before it breaks?
I knew that I would rather die than to live like that. It's a bad place to be.
Those questions defined Louise Allison's existence from the age of 14.
I was bought, sold, traded, drugged, raped, and beat.
Locked into a life without love, deprived of dignity, a slave to the streets.
It's hard to explain to someone who hasn't lived it how scared and shame-filled a person is when they're actually living the life.
After 25 years of trying to forget,
gratitude that it's not me, and shame because it used to be.
She's stepping out from the shadows of shame to change the fates of others caught in the human trafficking trap.
If there is any way that one life can be changed, one life can be saved by me getting out and talking about the horrors that happened to me at that time, then I'm willing to do it.
Our organization, Safe Places, being one of those. Many of these girls are runaways and they have no place to go. They're befriended by someone who they think is their friend, and the next thing you know they're being sold.
Doug Chenault and Louise formed the Partners Against Trafficking Humans, or PATH, initiative to rehabilitate rescued victims. During an unveiling ceremony on November 3rd, Louise publicly revealed her past horrors for the very first time.
I was a living example of what happens to little girls that play grown up.
According to the FBI, more than 300,000 children have been sold by sex traffickers in the United States. In the global trade, 1 in 4 sex slaves are Americans who simply vanished. And each year, 13,000 kids are snatched up and sold for sex.
And a lot of us would like to think that this is a dark world that only exists in places like New York and LA, but the truth is our daily commute cuts right through a human trafficking corridor.
Some of these kids end up like that.
Pulaski County Sheriff Doc Holliday's familiar with human trafficking in Central Arkansas, dating back to his first Vice Squad sting in the 1980s.
The first prostitute that I arrested was a 17-year-old runaway from Hot Springs.
Continuing to modern-day slaves soliciting undercover officers.
No one deserves to be bought and sold in this fashion, in any fashion.
I mean, this is what I'd be doing.
This woman, who we'll call Beth, believes she was coming to Little Rock for a job training seminar.
He said he had a job working in an office.
Instead, she's arrested in a prostitution sting after the man who brought her here forced her to turn tricks to pay back money he fronted her.
The only way I could go home, he said, is if I did this. It's the only way I can get the money to go home.
Arkansas serves as a human trade hotspot because of I-40, which spans the United States. A van next to you could be carrying someone that's being bought and sold against their will.
Vans, trucks, any way to transport a victim, yes.
Offering countless truck stops for selling what's known as commercial companion services. Journalist Dorothy Cox has been investigating the truck stop sex trade in Arkansas, which happens more than we might like to imagine.
You can only sell a drug once, but you can sell a human being over and over and over.
With the shocking realities of what these victims endure, it's hard to believe there's not a facility in the state offering a refuge for those rescued from the clutches of crime.
They're brutalized, they're held against their will, and they're used to make money.
In the U.S., only 1,000 beds are available for sex trafficking victims. Without a safe place off the streets, many will return to what they know.
You can't just bring somebody in off the street that's been beaten into submission and expect them to be able to walk out in 2 weeks and be back having a normal life.
Our clothes were filthy, and I felt and looked like trash.
That's what I felt like I was worth. That's what I felt like was my life.
The bruises may fade, the broken bones will mend, but without therapy,
I don't miss having to have sex with men that I don't know.
the scars on these suffering souls can be much harder to heal.
I don't want anybody to have to spend 25 years like I did hiding behind the shame of what happened when I was too young to know any better.
In the end, those like Louise are simply trying to help victims who escape from this dark underworld driven by greed where hope and dignity are always for sale.